Can Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, bench one of his own players? That is a question that a lot of Browns fans are asking right now because the team continues to trot out Deshaun Watson for another week when the five have not gone very well, safe to say. So I want to try and answer this question on today's episode because Stefanski told the media on Wednesday that there hasn't been any thought of benching Watson, which is crazy to say because I remember when he spoke to the media on Monday and they looked at the film and they decided there's nothing here that deserves a benching. And I'm like, are we watching different film? Because I'm watching receivers run wide open all over the field and Watson is holding onto the ball for too long. And yes, there are moments where the offensive line might fail him. Receivers drop passes. But also, there are one too many missed opportunities and one too many bad throws from Watson. But I think in order to really answer this question, we have to go back in time because I am seeing a lot of people follow up the question about whether or not Stefanski can bench Watson. Like, does he have the power to do so? They tie it in with, well, it was a forced marriage, right? Stefanski never wanted Watson. This was tossed upon him, and Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam are forcing him to play Watson. Personally, I don't think that is entirely true. For starters, I think Kevin Stefanski was over Baker Mayfield. Now, Watson, from a schematic standpoint, might not be a great fit for Stefanski. That's kind of safe to say at this point. But I think Stefanski was happy to have a different quarterback come in after coaching Baker for a couple of seasons, and 2021 really being the fallout for his time in Cleveland. I mean, there weren't just like one example or two examples of this. We have Baker not speaking to the media after a win against the Lions. There was the whole Odell Beckham Jr. saga, which is like its own story by itself. How about Baker, though, criticizing Kevin Stefanski and the Browns' preparation and game plan for the Steelers, not chipping TJ Watt and putting James Hudson on him all by himself? How about Baker criticizing Stefanski's play calling, saying, got conservative, we need to put that team away? So there were a lot of instances where it was public that Stefanski and Baker were not a great fit. And Stefanski, I think, through the media has always done a couple of things. One, he doesn't say a whole lot. That's just his MO. Two, he definitely does not want to give the media any kind of drama or stories to run with. He leaves up to the media to try and connect the dots. He doesn't do that for them very often. But I think it's clear that 2021 was not a good, not just football season, but bonding experience between Stefanski and Baker. And so when people talk about this being a forced setup for Stefanski, are we forgetting that Stefanski and Baker were not really two buds their last year together in Cleveland? I don't. I think as time passes, we try and maybe rewrite history a little bit based on what's going on in the present day. But it's all documented for us. This was not a very good setup. And that's why I think it's somewhat, I won't say lazy, but somewhat simplistic when people go, man, the Browns dumped Baker for Deshaun Watson. Imagine they had Baker right now. Guys, they had Baker in 2021, and that was the kind of product they were getting. Like, I think Baker would not be the same quarterback he is today if he did not go through his time in Carolina and LA. No one gets mad at those two teams for moving on from Baker. But anyway, let's also remember that there was a lot of drama that really started to implode at the end of the 2021 season. Mary Kay had a bit of a bombshell article saying Mayfield's issues with Stefanski bubbled below the surface for most of the season, with Mayfield feeling like Stefanski's play calling didn't always put him in positions to succeed or play to his strengths. How about this also? The rift between Mayfield and Stefanski wasn't necessarily evident in the building, but more of a low-key vibe permeating the offense. So I think it's suffice to say and safe to say that Stefanski, well, maybe Watson from, like I said, a schematic standpoint, wasn't a perfect fit for Stefanski. Kevin was very happy, I think, to move on from Baker. Like, didn't even say goodbye to Baker when the trade happened. So don't sell me this idea of Stefanski is being held hostage with Watson. No, I don't think Stefanski was driving the boat to Deshaun Watson, but I think he got on the bus for let's move on from Baker Mayfield. I think at the end of the day, the bottom line when it comes to Baker and the Browns is the Browns felt like Baker was holding them back. A lot of fans outside of Cleveland, like NFL fans, not Browns fans, look at this situation and they think, why would the Browns ever move on from the quarterback that ended their playoff drought, ended their playoff winning drought? And I can see how they get to that conclusion. But Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski were not hired to end droughts of playoff appearances and playoff wins. They were hired to win the Super Bowl. And if they feel like Baker could not accomplish that for them, I'm not going to fault them too much for moving on for them just because there's supposed to be some charity case in the eyes of everyone else, and they should just be grateful to have a quarterback to end their droughts. That was the past. They are trying to win now, win for the future. So if they don't think Baker's the guy for that job, then they have every right to move on from him. They shouldn't be glued to him just because for a long time it was the factory of sadness, and now that things are going better than before, they are not allowed to improve or they are not allowed to try and change things up. I don't buy that. Now, before we look at the rest of today's episode and talk about whether or not Stefanski can really bench Watson, today's show was made possible thanks to our friends over at Game Time. If you want to go see your favorite team live, Game Time Picks makes that so much easier for you because they filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I really like about Game Time is you can get a bird's eye view of your seat before you purchase your ticket. That way you know exactly what you're getting before you spend your hard-earned money. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So let's now talk about the other side of the equation, which is Andrew Berry and maybe his role a little bit here. I think Berry led the charge on Watson. I think he was the most motivated to go and get Watson. For starters, that's kind of his job as the GM, right? He is constantly looking to improve this roster. And at the time, in March of 2022, he felt like Watson would be an improvement over Baker Mayfield. And I don't really think Kevin Stefanski had that big of a role in that search because twice in Watson's introductory press conference, Berry mentioned the word odyssey, called it a 5-month odyssey. Remember? Well, Watson was traded to the Browns in March 2022. So go back 5 months from there, February, January, December, November, October. In October, roughly, Berry was trying to find the next quarterback for Cleveland and looking specifically at Watson. Kevin Stefanski in October was busy coaching this team. So no, I don't think Stefanski was a part of the search process too much, but I do think Stefanski was happy to have someone other than Baker be his quarterback. And I don't blame him for probably being excited about Watson, given how talented and what a great year he had in 2020 before sitting out of all of 2021. And in the eyes of Andrew Berry, the quarterback was probably the only missing piece from this team being a playoff winning team to a Super Bowl winning team. They had, remember, go back a little bit of time, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, David Njoku, Nick Chubb, all a couple years younger than they are now, all entering the primes of their career. You put what they thought would be the 2020 version of Watson in that offense, and who's stopping it? Now, of course, we're going to learn later why that does not work and who stops it, and it's ultimately the Browns themselves and Watson himself. But Stefanski, in my opinion, was not resistant to going out and getting Deshaun Watson. Was it maybe his first choice of a quarterback for what he likes to run offensively? I think probably only Stefanski could answer that question, but maybe not. But was he fed up with Baker and ready to move on? Yeah, I'd say so. And then we got this from Jason Lloyd at The Athletic shortly after the trade got through. Most of the rest of the meeting was devoted to Stefanski and Watson. Stefanski brought an iPad loaded with film clips. The Browns cut up all of Watson's RPOs from the 2019 and 2020 seasons, organized them by what the Texans did most and areas where Watson excelled. Stefanski sat the iPad between the two of them and showed a play the Browns ran, and then followed it with a clip of Watson doing the same thing with the Texans. So, not to beat a dead horse, but don't feed me this idea that Stefanski is handcuffed to Watson from the start. It was a shotgun marriage, and the two were never supposed to be together, and Stefanski never wanted Watson. I think Stefanski was ready to move on from Baker, and Watson was probably a good breath of fresh air from a quarterback standpoint in terms of his skill set. Now, we get to present day. And if you guys recall, Deshaun Watson reportedly crossed off the Browns. And maybe they don't admit this publicly, but I'm going to believe that. A lot of reporting on it. And the thing that changed was Jimmy Haslam told Andrew Berry, you have the green light for a $230 million fully guaranteed contract. Jimmy Haslam does not give that green light unless he himself really wants Deshaun Watson. Like maybe if you rank who wanted Watson the most, it goes like Berry and DePodesta kind of tied together from an analytics perspective. Jimmy Haslam feeling like this is going to be the end to the Browns quarterback search, and Stefanski probably coming in next of, well, I'm kind of just done with Baker, so yeah, whoever you guys have in mind, awesome, I'm ready to get a different quarterback in here. Watson, yeah, it's probably not a perfect fit for what we like to do offensively in our personnel, but we can adjust. Sadly, they really couldn't adjust. So, where did things go wrong with Watson? For me, there's probably two things we can look at. One, it's hard to say without being in Berea and on that team and on that roster and coaching staff, but the maybe potential lack of preparation. I hate conjugating and speculating on things that I can't say definitively because I'm not at practice with them, but I'm listening to Commanders players after the game say Watson doesn't look like he has any confidence. I'm watching breakdowns from Brian Baldinger, who does an excellent job saying these are things that you notice pre-snap in your preparation leading up to the game, and Watson's missing layups in the NFL. So it's fair to question whether or not there's a fair amount of preparation going in since he's got $230 million guaranteed. And then the confidence. It might just be shot. He may just feel like he can never get his fastball back. He's 4 years removed from leading the NFL in passing in 2020. And maybe he feels like I'm just never going to mentally recover from being booed at home, being booed on the road, and maybe not having all of his teammates behind him. Hard to say. But the numbers, they speak for themselves. You don't need me to say it out loud. He has been a different person, different quarterback since going from Houston to Cleveland. And ultimately, to answer the question that we started the video off with, does Kevin Stefanski have the power to bench Deshaun Watson? I don't think he does. I think that's a decision that's a little bit above his pay grade. I think when an owner gives out a $230 million contract, he's going to trust that coach to make it work. And I don't really fault Haslam too much for that line of thinking, right? You paid for something. You were told by your GM and maybe a little bit of your head coach, this guy would make it work. So now it's on them to make it work. Now, of course, it's obvious now it's not working. So you can cut your losses, or you can continue placing the job and the stress on your coaching staff in the front office to make this situation work since they got Jimmy Haslam to agree to sign a $230 million check. But I don't think this is a Kevin Stefanski decision solely. I think $230 million takes it out of the hands of your head coach. That's simple in my opinion. If you enjoyed today's video, show me by liking the video. It really does go a long way to boost the algorithm surrounding our content, which shows us to more Browns fans and gets a bigger audience here. So greatly appreciate it if you like the video to actually go ahead and like the video. I do want to wrap it up by showing some love, though, to the Brown and Orange Club. Tim Green, Mike Dibble, Jeremy Stallman, Slow But Sure, David Botner, Jared Brandt, James Harper, Papa T, Joseph DePorte, Mike, Ray Biddy, Dr. No, Eli Green, John Porter, Scorpion, Max T, Jacob Bate, Drunken Honky. Thank you guys so much for going above and beyond to show us support here. If you want to get shout outs for the rest of the year, $50 super chat when we're live, and we'll toss your name on screen into the Brown and Orange Club.